now it's time for our next speaker. Nicola will be moderating it, so please, Nicola, come to the stage and announce our next speaker.
Thanks, Sanya. Hey, everyone. I guess I did a good job last year. So we're continuing with the startup story, and our next speaker actually has a nice story behind him. Dražen from Tour Via Me, our startup, called me and said, I have a great speaker for you for Spark Me. And I said, sorry, speakers list is closed, no more spaces, so sorry. And he said, you have to listen to this guy. You know, just take a look at his presentation and then you can tell me what you think. So, okay, he's my friend, I can't say no. So I just took a look at one presentation. Then after that one, I said, okay, maybe it was a fluke, so I looked at another. Then I looked at the third one and said, okay.
On this stick.
Exactly. Fuck the speakers list. We're giving this guy a slot. You have to hear how awesome he is. His position is Chief Hustler at Close.io. He describes himself as the greatest sales hustler in Silicon Valley. And lately, he's been famous on YouTube for an NSYNC video singing Bye, Bye, Bye. But we'll talk about that later. Please welcome Steli Efti.
Thanks, my man. I'm not going to dance for you guys. Forget it. I fired half my people when I danced Bye, Bye, Bye. So first I have to hire all of you before I do that. All right, so usually, let's see if they have my presentation. They don't. This is also good, but it's not my presentation. Anyways, I think I can do it without slides. We'll figure it out. If somebody figures out my slides, just let me know. So typically I talk about hustling and sales. My entrepreneurial superpower is hustle. Today I'm going to talk about how Silicon Valley made me think small. I can't think of a smaller place to come to talk about thinking small than Montenegro. Beautiful, beautiful place. But I think it's very fitting. Also, Giovanna, where are you? Are you doing the Steli meter? There you go. There you go. So I'm kind of known for cursing a lot and for screaming. So people started having a Steli meter of taking care and tracking how many swear words I use. Today, as a Spark.me exclusive, for the very first time, I'll use 2 Greek swear words, also in the presence of Elare Malaka. One is Malaka, the other one is Gamoto. Those are exclusives. I've never used them on stage before. You'll hear a lot of fucking and other things going on. All right, so a little bit about myself. So who does know who the fuck I am? Just raise your hand, be proud. Must be most of you people. Exactly. That's the doses of motivation and inspiration I need to get started when I'm on stage. All right, you don't know who the fuck I am, and that's good. All right, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm originally Greek, born and raised in Germany, and about 8 years ago, I sold everything I had, I bought a one-way ticket, and I moved to Silicon Valley to become a tech entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, dropped out of high school when I was 17, 18. I fucking hated school, I'm totally unemployable, and I have slides. See how this works? That's awesome. All right, so none of you would ever hire me. So when people ask me, why have you been an entrepreneur your whole life? I'm like, lack of options, you know. All right, it's not the most inspirational story, but it works for me. Well, before I start, I truly believe that appreciation is the currency you pay the universe with. So with that being said, I want to say thank you to all of you for showing up today, for listening. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I want to thank Ramon, for fucking waking me up this morning. Even without coffee. All right, so I don't just launch companies, I also launch babies. So this is my oldest one. We launched him 3 years ago. Our most recent startup is the small, handsome gentleman a year ago. I'm really, it really was my wife that launched them. I was more of a support and business development role, if you want so. Thank you. All right, so why do I want to talk about how Silicon Valley made me think small? So last year, I was speaking at a conference, and I visited Switzerland, Zurich, and in Zurich, something horrible happened. Somebody stole my fucking passport, right? So in that passport, my US visa and a bunch of other things, so I had to go back to Greece because I'm still a Greek citizen to get a new passport. Nothing is more fun than going to Greece to get official paperwork done, right? Yes, exactly, Paul, exactly. So I spent 2 weeks in Greece. I'm like, if I'm in Greece, might as well do something useful. So I met with every single entrepreneur in that city, all the startup people. And the last night, this doesn't come through that well, but there was a big dinner to say goodbye, and they were asking me all these questions. At some point, one of these Greek entrepreneurs looked at me and said, Steli, tell me, how did Silicon Valley make you think bigger? And I had to think about that question for a moment, and I was like, Silicon Valley actually has made me think smaller. Much, much smaller. Because when I first showed up to Silicon Valley, I'll tell you a little bit about my mindset, right? So this is 8 years ago. So I have this idea that I think will change the fucking world, right? I think it's gonna be my legacy, the reason why I fucking exist. I sell everything I have back in Germany. I buy a one-way ticket. I show up at San Francisco airport and I ask someone, how do I get to Silicon Valley? Silicon Valley, yes, one person laughing. Silicon Valley is not a place, it's not a city, it's an area, right? So I was so clueless. I knew nobody, I knew nothing about it. But I had pretty grand visions, right? I thought I would change the fucking world. And my plan was pretty simple. I had 2 simple goals, right? Number 1, I wanted to just change the world. And goal number 2, I didn't publicly ever say this, but my second goal, secret goal, was to be Time Magazine Man of the Year or Person of the Year, like 2 years after I arrived there. I don't want to take the suspense away, but these 2 things, haven't really happened, at least in this order yet. Right? But I had like these grand visions. And I'll tell you something else. I was an arrogant asshole. Because although I knew nothing, I was good at judging other people's ideas. I remember meeting the Airbnb founders when Airbnb had not blown up yet as big of a success as it was. And those guys were still struggling. And I remember thinking, sleeping on fucking air mattresses and making breakfast for strangers, this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. I wanted to change education. I built this online education platform that allowed everybody around the world to teach and study from each other, and it would disrupt educational learning forever. It was like, fucking air mattresses? Really? That's what you're doing with your life? That's so stupid. There was another startup that I met. It was this one. You might know it. And I was like, Dropbox, file sharing? Really? That's what you're going to do with your life? It's like, you solved the problem for me to put a file online? What the fuck is that? There's enough file sharing going on. As you've noticed, I would make an amazing investor, right? I just know how to spot the winners. Marvin, you should just always invest in the ideas I think are the stupidest, right? You'll crush it with the fun, right? So I was like walking around, and basically what I was doing, I was comparing my startup penis with your startup penis. I would go to events, I'd be so judgmental, and I'd be like, oh, what are you doing? We're doing blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? Well, we're doing this and this. And then I would look at me and go, yeah, mine is bigger. I'm changing education. You're doing file sharing. Whatever. Like, mine is much bigger and better than yours. I was an arrogant asshole. I would, not to the external world, that's the fucked up part. If you met me, I was kind of a nice guy. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But internally, I was like, stupid. Nah, too small. I'm gonna fucking Person of the Year in Time Magazine. Like, what the file sharing, air mattresses? That's bullshit. All right, so you can guess so far, like, where it was going for me. Also, this is something I see with a shit ton of startups that come to Silicon Valley and around the world too. My milestones for my business were so fucked up. Number 1, I want to raise millions of dollars. And number 2, I want to hire hundreds of people. And then I want to put all those millions and hundreds of people in a massive building so I can feel as successful as possible, right? That's fucked up. You know how many entrepreneurs I meet and all the questions they ask are horrible questions. How can I raise money? As if that's the most important thing in the world. How can we get, or people, a lot of times people ask me today, hey, how big is your company? I'm like, in profits or in people? And they're like, they wanted to ask in people. They're like, in people? I'm like, we're small in people. We're humongous in profits, right? Like, those priorities are backwards. I wanted to have lots and lots of people work for me. For what reason? Other than having a big startup penis. For no reason whatsoever, right? Bullshit. Right, I can tell you that by now, so this company didn't work out. I'll tell you a little bit about it. I have no sense for time, so as long as nobody kicks me off stage, I'll keep talking. So I have by now, we'll make a little jump in time. I have raised millions, and I have hired tons of people, and I had big buildings where people work for me. Today, I have a very small team. I say no to VCs every single day, and I fucking love life, and I'll tell you why thinking small is much better than thinking big. So now, one or the other might have wondered, what was the idea? So I'll tell you a little bit of context. The first business that I did in Silicon Valley was called Super Cool School. The idea was to build an open platform that allowed everybody to teach and study from each other. We did a shit ton of bullshit work, right? We did like presentations and brainstorms and websites and this and that. And we worked on, when Facebook just announced the platform, we had the first app on Facebook that allowed people, we're going to turn Facebook into an online university. And we did a corporate education platform for Google where engineers could teach engineers skills around the world. And we did a shit ton of bullshit, and we were working on this platform, we're doing all this magical stuff, and we're going nowhere. Zero traction, zero money raised, very little users. Just like the things that were fundamentally important, we didn't accomplish. But we built it, over-engineered, and built more and built more and built more. In contrast, during the exact same time, there was this guy that was also doing something in education, Salman Khan, right? And he took the exact opposite approach of me. What he did, he was like, I need to teach these kids something about math. Let me make this 2-minute video. Then I do it once and I don't have to do it again. Started a YouTube channel, just a fucking YouTube channel, that's it. And he started creating little lessons, 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute videos. Every fucking day though. And he did like multiple videos every day, not one day, not 10 days. After a month, he had maybe like 3 views on YouTube. He didn't give a shit. He just kept making those videos every day. 4 videos, 5 videos, 6 videos, every fucking day, consistently for a year, for a little over a year. Now there's like a few hundred views on his videos. There's these kids that are like, Mr. Khan, you changed my life. You really helped me with this test, right? And it's like a little bit of traction going on. He just keeps doing videos like there's no tomorrow. He doesn't give a shit. And at some point, he starts taking off. And at some point, there's an inflection point. Bill Gates is on stage and he talks about education and he brings up his YouTube channel. And the next thing you know is fucking media is throwing themselves at him. And he's like in all outlets. I don't know if he ever made Time Magazine Person of the Year, but who gives a shit, right? But he's like everywhere. CNN, Forbes, all the magazines. All of a sudden, he gets millions and millions of views on his YouTube channel. By today, Khan Academy is this massive thing. The fucked up thing is that our office was right next to theirs once they blew up. So now it's a nonprofit, but it's this massive thing that has changed the world and is continuing to change the world. It started small. When I looked at his strategy, I was like, I don't want to have a YouTube channel. I want to fucking build the school of the future, right? I was an arrogant prick, and that's why I didn't change the world of education, and he did. All right, so what am I doing today? Today, I'm known as like the sales guy of Silicon Valley. Today, I work for a company, or I've co-founded a company called Close.io. It's sales software. We help startups predominantly that are in B2B sell more, make more revenue. Our software is amazing, and I love it. But if I think about it, 8 years ago, I would have looked at myself and went, sales software? Really? That's what you're going to do with your life? Help a fucking salesperson sell more. That's it. Should we put that on your gravestone? Steli's life's work. Some salesperson sold more, right? Is that really it? So we have a tiny company. We're just 8 people. We have tons of profits, and we're fucking loving our life. And we're saying no to every week there's a VC offering 10, 15, $20 million, and I keep saying no and enjoying myself. And we're staying as small as we possibly can. Now, the funny thing is, this company I would have looked down at, I've never had bigger impact in my life. I've never changed more lives in a positive way. I've never helped more companies around the world. Every day I get 10, 20, 30 emails of people just thanking me for the difference I made in their lives. And I don't say that to brag, maybe a little bit, but what I really want to say is that it doesn't matter, you should not think in small or big, or like, is my startup penis bigger than yours? Is this really a big idea or not? You should start thinking, am I creating value for just one person? Am I doing something that's truly valuable? Am I just fucking around and spending all my time with bullshit? This is our team. Because we're small, we can do some amazing things. Like our smallest competitor in our space for Closeout is like 130 employees, and we make more revenue. We're 8. I fucking love that. I would never want to hire many people just to hire people. I love these people. We go travel every 3 months at a different place. We have an amazing culture in the company, and we are hiring. So if you want to be hired, and eventually if you ever be fired, I dance for you exclusively, just for you, one-on-one, then shoot me an email. All right, so let me share some more lessons that I learned on why I think thinking small is a powerful thing. And eventually, it's the only way that you can ever get big, is you start small. First, one thing that I learned, when I arrived in Silicon Valley and I was doing startups, I thought as an entrepreneur, I have to work 17, 18 hours a day. And I worked 7 days a week, no vacations off, no parties, no weekends, no nothing. And the more I suffered, the more in a sick way I was enjoying it, because it's like, that's the suffering of success. Right? This pain is gonna make me big one day. This pain is gonna be what puts me on Time magazine, right? But the thing is, there's a difference between being busy and being productive. There's a difference between sitting in front of your fucking laptop for hours and hours and doing something worthwhile, creating value, doing something that matters. It's a massive difference. Today, I know during a normal day, I can't be productive for more than 4 hours. And productive means I've done shit that was truly important. And when I start my day, I always start doing just one thing. Here's the question that I ask myself every single day, and I would invite you to do the same. Before I go to the office, I go have cappuccino by myself, and then I ask myself, if I could do only one thing, and then I would have to fuck off back home, and would still feel good about myself, what's that one thing? And I just do that one thing. And then I fuck off home. No, sometimes not, right? All right. So don't think about hours. How many hours do you work? It's not about how big the hours are, it's what you do with them. It really is. I think busyness is a form of lazy thinking and working. The other thing, I met the founders of Heroku. Heroku, I'm not sure if you guys know that or not. It's a startup that was pretty famous, sold to Salesforce for hundreds of millions. And these guys blew my mind. So I talked to those 3 founders of Heroku, and they share some philosophies with me. One of them was, they're like, if something is too hard, we don't do it. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, if it's too hard, we never do it. Like, what do you mean? Well, if something is really hard for us, it means either that we're the wrong people, it's the wrong time, or we have the wrong approach of working on it. So what we do is we say, oh, this problem is really hard. Let's put it to the side, and let's revisit it in a few months. And you know the funny thing, Steli, is that a lot of times, it was the wrong problem to work on at all, so we never have to work on that problem. Sometimes it comes back, and at that point we have somebody on the team that can solve that problem easily, or we have now the resources or the wisdom or the approach or the tool set to solve that problem easily. So we only and exclusively solve easy fucking problems. Blew my mind. It blew my fucking mind. Everything I thought about entrepreneurship before was you only work on things hard and you work on it on the hard way, and the more you suffer and the more suffering the problem is, the better it is for the world. Bullshit. Bullshit. It's all just virtual jerking off. There's some sickness to it. It's like, oh, we enjoy that pain and suffering. Thank you. It seems like there are some people who know the pleasure of suffering in this audience. So today, seriously, if something is way too hard, I stop working on it. It's magic. It's magic. Scary as fuck to somebody like me. Scary to be like, this is too hard, leave it alone. But it's so empowering. It's so amazing. The amount of bullshit time you can save by not working on things that are too hard for you to do. The next thing, this is something I learned from Paul Graham, who's like, probably one of the single most influential people in startups around the world, the founder of Y Combinator. The first day we got accepted to Y Combinator for one of my startups, Paul Graham chats with us about our idea. And at some point he turns around and says, all right, Steli, you have to decide now. What is the number one most important metric you have? What's the one thing that's the most important thing? We're like, well, fully subscribed paying customers, right? People that are subscribed with a credit card and everything. It's like, cool, that's the number. Can you promise me 10% growth every single week from today till demo day, which is in 3 months? Can you give me your word and promise that that's going to be a number you deliver? I'm like, dude, we have 10 users right now. That's like 1 user next week. Fuck yeah, I can't do that. He's like, all right, shake the hand on. And while we're shaking hands, I'm like, do you have your credit card with you? He's like, see, that's why you need to promise me that. So we signed him up, and then I signed up everybody with a credit card that was in the building, right? And all we focused on every single week, not 10 metrics, not hundreds, just one single metric. How can we get 10% growth next week? Every time we had a discussion, should we do this thing or that thing? Should we focus on this in the product roadmap or that? We took a step back and we were like, what of all these things will get us 10% growth? That's all we did. And you know what happened? At the end of the day, we delivered 20% week over week growth for 3 months. This is not a lot in numbers, but it creates a massive chart. It creates like a little curved chart up and to the right. We printed that chart on fucking t-shirts at our demo day. And when I was talking to investors, I was like, I remember talking to you when we were here. Now we are here. Motherfucker, you can do it now. You can do it when we're up there. Like, it's up to you. I don't care. I was still a little arrogant shit. But it worked. Nothing was more appealing than that level of confidence. But more important than that, more important than the t-shirt part is you have to pick. Don't do lots of numbers. Pick one. What's the most important one? But our business is so complex and so amazing that it has 13 numbers that are important. No, you just don't know how to make a choice. You don't know how to make the hard choice of choosing one thing that's signaling to you if you're on the right track or not. All right, the next thing is, we all love bullshit work. I'll give you an example. Google Analytics, right? Google Analytics or metrics. Like we're like, oh, I have this idea for the product, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this landing page, and then I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to buy some traffic, and then I'm going to do some SEM and SEO work, and then I'm going to set up Google Analytics, and then I'm going to look at my charts in my pajamas, and I'm going to decide how I'm going to conquer the world based on the data, because I'm a data-driven person. Right? Big data is even better than small data. If you haven't noticed, people that say it depends on the data, not saying the truth, right? It is more data is better. So this is we all love that. You know why we love that bullshit shit? Is because it's good for the ego and it's safe. It's in your fucking living room. You don't have to interact with reality, and reality hurts. It's dirty, it's messy, it's shitty, and it's different from what you want it to be. That's why we like we set this stuff up on my laptop and then boom, millions. Instead of doing that shit, when you have something new, how about you get off your fucking pajamas, you put on some clothes, you go to a coffee shop, and you show your shitty little landing page to somebody, and you go, look at this, please, sir. I'll get you your coffee, and then tell me what the fuck I'm doing. Thank you. Nothing is a stronger medicine to your bullshit ideas than reality. Like, look at somebody over their shoulder, how they're struggling to click on your app and figure out what to do with it. Nothing is more like cleansing in like the reality check you get. You just look over people's shoulders. Don't explain what you do. Don't tell them where to click. Don't go, yeah, what we do. Oh, that button, we haven't made it yellow yet. So, no, just shut the fuck up. Just give them the thing and go, please, sir. Here's your fucking coffee. What I want. 2 minutes, do something with my app, and then see what they do. That's gonna teach you so much more than looking at like, I got 27 clicks on Google. I think our idea is validated by now. I think we could go on and raise $100 million. We got all the validation we needed. No, go out in the real world, talk to real people. Pitch somebody your idea, and then don't just have them go, oh, I really like it. No, tell them, can you now go and tell this to this person? And then listen to the shit they're gonna say. Listen to it. Listen to their struggle. Look at their face and look at their pain trying to remember what the fuck you told them you're doing. They are doing something in the disruptive day, something, I don't know, help me out here. What did you say again you do? That's the medicine we all need to realize the bullshit we're working on. All right, and the last thing that I'm going to share, and I could go on for hours obviously, but I'm going to keep this limited so I can answer some of your questions. The beauty of small is that, or the difficulty with small, is that it requires you to make hard choices. It requires you to say no to things and decide, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're not going to do. It's too easy to say yes. You know, that starts with company culture. Like, look at a company like Facebook. Early on, they decided speed is what we care about. So we'll say move fast and break things. We can't also say quality of code is really important to us. You can't. You can't say speed is everything, but we want the best quality and never making any mistakes. You can't. That's what most companies do. They have a bunch of values and they're all a bunch of bullshit because one is contradicting the other. Of course I want to be the fastest, best, safest, greatest, most exciting, I want to be everything because everything is great. but you can't be everything. If you want to be everything, you'll be nothing. So you have to learn to say no, and I'll give you 2 practical tips on that, on like deciding what to do or not to do. Instead of deciding what you want to do, start deciding what you won't do. If you have a startup and you have a product roadmap, make an unroadmap. Oh, that discussion is going to be so hard. You sit with your team and you decide, what are we never going to build? What are we never going to make part of our product? Now, you can change your mind. Life goes on, right? A year from now, you want to revisit that on roadmap. But make some hard choices. We'll never, for us, for Closer, we said 2 years ago when we launched, we'll never have a mobile app because we're an inside sales tool. People that sell through the phone and email, we're going to build the best fucking tool for that. Yes, we want to have a mobile version, but that's not our number 1 priority. People complain about it every day, but we're still growing like crazy because we're exceptionally good at what we do, and we're not great at everything else that exists. It's hard to say no to things. Same thing with to-do lists on a smaller scale. When I start my day with my not to-do list. I put all the shit on a list that I'm not going to fucking work on today. And you know what's cool about that list? Once I start my day, ideas come up. I have these urges. Oh, I should do this or I should do that. Put that on the not to-do list. Somebody comes to me, Steli, could we work on this and this? Let me put that on my not to fucking do list. Somebody sends me an email, hey, could we blah, blah, blah. There's all this stimulus, all these ideas, all these people that want, and I have ideas, and I want to do, and my to-do list always used to be like a humongous motherfucker. And all it did is just make me feel more and more horrible towards the end of the day. And then I had like 2 things checked off on that thing. Today, my to-do list is like 2 or 3 items. My not to-do list is massive. It's a power thing. I don't have to think about that shit. Yes, your great idea on the not to-do list. Try that out, and you'll see that it's hard for us humans to say no. It's hard for us to just focus on a few small things, but then take that small thing and hit the fuck out of that motherfucker. Just do one thing, but do it a lot, and do it with passion, do it with hustle, and you'll see like what we do for marketing, for instance, Closeout, all our marketing is just content marketing. It's just me teaching what I know, us teaching to the world how to do sales successfully. That's all we do. That's how we drive our growth. People, when they meet me, they're like, holy shit, Steli, how did you do so much content? Once I started following you, you're fucking everywhere. I don't do anything else. That's all we do. I don't do SEM, I don't do SEO, I don't do this. I just do one thing, but I hit that nail until I'm blue in the face. All right, so I'll end with one of my all-time favorite quotes from Mother Teresa. Never worry about numbers. Help one person at a time, and always start with the person nearest to you, next to you, all right? With that being said, guys, go get him. Think small. And thank you so much. Thank you. You'll really have to sit down. This is so weird. Should I do this?
Yeah.
I need some tea.
So let's see how you did. The Steli meter. Fuck 18 times, shit 13 times, fucking 28 times, motherfucker 3 times, bullshit 12 times, fuck up 3 times. Well done.
All for you. It's all for you.
Okay. All right. So in about 4 hours, we're going to have, well, we were supposed to have 10 startups on this stage after your speech. And when they hear you're in the jury, I don't think you will have 2 startups.
I'm a nice person when I'm not an asshole.
Since we're very, very short on time, I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm sure there are some people. Come on, he's a nice guy.
Please ask a question. All right, let me tell you a quick story on asking questions. The last two conferences ago, with Ramon Wow, same conference, I say you always have to be outside your comfort zone, do something you're afraid of, do it today. I do this whole talk about that. There's a lady in the audience, first question she asks is like, what are you afraid of, motherfucker, right? So she asked some really good questions, and then after me, she asked the best questions at every single talk. Afterwards, all the speakers go to her. We all become friends with her. Next day, she's at the VIP parties, at this thing, at that thing. And then it turns out, she sends me an email a few days later, at Hazal, she's awesome, and she says, Steli, she's a very religious person. She doesn't look like the person that's like a rock star, but she was a rock star at that conference. She's like, Steli, when you said be outside your comfort zone, I was like, what am I uncomfortable with? And the answer was asking questions. So I was like, today I'm going to ask questions. And once I started asking questions, everybody was loving me. And then the speakers were all like impressed with me. It's like at the breaks, people were coming to me, shaking my hand. She's like, I've never had anybody talk to me ever. I'm always the person nobody pays any attention to. She's like, I fucking love it. I need more of this in my life. All right, who wants to be the first question?
Hello? Here.
Okay, one here.
On this side. Hello?
Okay, we have 2, so
There you go. Hello,
let's go
sir.
over there.
Hi there.
Thank you so much for asking a question.
No problem. I wanted to ask, you said going to Silicon Valley made you think small.
Yeah.
But you had a lot of success. Do you think it was because you were in Silicon Valley? For startups in Europe like us, that a lot of people say if you want to make it, you have to go to Silicon Valley. What's your opinion?
So it's hard for me to tell. I haven't done a startup like this in anywhere else other than in Silicon Valley, right? For me, the move to the Valley was good because it's not the physical place that's great. It's that around the world, some of the best entrepreneurs all go to this one tiny place. So you have a lot more competition, you have a lot more inspiration, and you have a lot more people to teach and learn from. So that concentration is what makes that place special. That helped me learn. But I had to go through 5 years of failing harder than I've ever had in my life because I was totally out of my depth. So it depends on what you want. I think you can be an amazing entrepreneur anywhere around the world. There's enough examples of that. Somebody's going to be the fucking baller of Montenegro, right? That everybody around the world is like, this startup started in Montenegro, and it just fucking rules the world now. So I don't think you have to be anywhere, but I do think surrounding yourself with amazing people is important, and the Valley is a good place to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Before Sanya kills me, one more.
Okay, I'll be short and direct. Can we see the dance?
On
All right,
YouTube.
all right. Here's the thing. Somebody watched that video of me dancing to Bye 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 when I had to fire my people and said, Steli, I remember you being a much better dancer. And I was like, motherfucker, the point was not me dancing well. I had to just let go of people. The point was to me to look like an idiot. So I can look like an idiot just for you if
Thank
it
you.
makes you happy. Even without the song. Somebody has to sing Bye 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 or something, a clap at least.
Come
and I'm
on,
gonna make
guys.
myself a fool
I'm
for
not
you guys.
singing.
I did something like this. All right, this is it. I didn't do anything cooler than that. If you want to see me dance, come tonight and we'll dance together. All right.
Okay,
It's a deal.
deal.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.